Are you serious? Are you serious? We've got information. This is a prophecy alert coming out of Israel. Now, we reported on this last night as it related to, in our Sunday Night Live broadcast. We reported on it because it's very significant. I'm actually turning the Bible right now to the book of Daniel because I want to read Daniel 9:27 to you, because it definitely pertains to this moment. As the peace process continues in Israel between the Israelis and the Palestinians, it's more than just a peace agreement between those two groups of people, but it's the birthing of a second nation. It's going to be carving away some of the promised land, the coveted land that Abraham coveted to the children of Israel, to Abraham's seed, actually, in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 3. Now, it's also fulfillment of biblical prophecy, because the covenant with many is found in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. But there is some major sticking points to creating a second nation by dividing up coveted land, which God said don't do. Israel obviously has to get something out of it. Well, they want peace and security. And at the same time, they'd also like to build the third temple of the Lord on Mount Moriah. Well, there's still other issues to be resolved, like who's going to manage the buffer zone? Will it be the American soldiers? Or will it be a combination of maybe some Jordanians helping the Americans? Well, having said that, there's other issues that are huge, like who's going to manage the holy sites? Who's going to make sure that nobody disrupts the tourism as people come to see these holy sites? Some sites are holy, of course, more important to the Christians. Some are more important to the Jews, and some are more important to the Muslims. So who's going to manage all that? Well, in the U.S. plan, and here you can see a picture. Here's John F. Kerry, and there is John F. Kerry, Secretary of State of the United States of America, Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel. And they're having a chit-chat there in the midst of discussions. Now, part of who's going to manage this? Well, America is suggesting let the Vatican manage most of the holy sites. Now, when you go to Israel, and I've been there, when you go to the sites, some of them the Catholic Church already protects. The Garden Tomb is actually protected by the British Empire. Other sites you go to, they're protected by Israel. And even some places you have to enter into, like when you go to Bethlehem, the host city of Bethlehem is under the Palestinian Authority. It's in Ramallah, in that area, near Jericho as well. You're actually under Islamic rule, if you will. It's more Palestinian-controlled territory, the West Bank, and what have you. All right, so Secretary of State John F. Kerry quietly presented a U.S. plan for East Jerusalem, just the sites in East Jerusalem, that calls for an international administrative mandate to control the holy sites in the area, according to the informed Palestinian and informed Israeli diplomatic sources. The exact compensation or the exact delegation, if you will, of who's going to manage which site is still up for debate as this mandate is being discussed between the sides. Obviously, when you're talking East Jerusalem, you're talking about some very important areas. And let's just be honest, the Temple Mount, how's that going to work out? I mean, that's probably going to be one of the last things that's discussed. Now, I can tell you now that the Palestinians will get the Gaza Strip and will get a big chunk of Ramallah, or up in the West Bank. I also believe they will get a slice of Jerusalem, a slice of the East Jerusalem, not all of the East Jerusalem, but a slice of it. And the reason is, when you're in Jerusalem, when you go into the eastern part, it's primarily Islamic, and Arabic people, so it makes sense. But they're not going to get all of the East Jerusalem. They'll get a slice of it, and they can call that their capital, the Palestinians can, while the rest of Jerusalem will be considered the capital of Israel. Now, this process is being debated. Now, the Bible, Jesus told us about this abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel. I'm going to read that to you. Why did Jesus mention it? It's such a milestone. And we're entering into this 4 blood moon cycle coming up. And every time we've had one of these, and this is going to be the 4th one in a little over 500 years, but every time we've had one of these, significant changes as it relates to the nation of Israel and the Jewish people takes place. Significant milestones. And really, folks, the next big milestone is this peace agreement. And they're working on it feverishly, and they believe they can get it done in the next few months. Now, we also know that Pope Francis is coming to Israel. He's going to be meeting with Palestinian President Abbas in Ramallah. He's also going to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Sharon Peres in Jerusalem in May of 2014, after the first blood moon. Will he be there? Is it being timed for the signing of the covenant with many? Now the Bible says in Daniel 9:27, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. And for the overspreading of the abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. This covenant with many is going to be a 7-year agreement, because in the book of Daniel, all of the visions and dreams and revelations that Daniel received, a day equaled a year in time frame. And it says here that this will be a covenant with many for 1 week, or 7 years. And in the midst of that week, or in a 3.5-year period, the sacrificing, the oblation will cease. And what happens? The abomination of desolation, which Jesus said, when you see that standing in the holy place, whosoever readeth, let him understand. Well, Apostle Paul, and Jesus says that in Matthew 24, verse 15. Well, Apostle Paul explained to us what that was. He said, when the lawless one, when the wicked one, when the son of perdition, when he walks into the temple of God before the worshipers of God and declares or says that he is God. This is the abomination of desolation, folks. This is the thing that Jesus is referring to. Now you can read about that in 2 Thessalonians chapter 5 as he talks about this abomination of desolation. So, I believe that the Vatican, and I can see now that Pope Francis is going to participate in the signing of this covenant and the management of many of the holy sites in Israel. That is part of the plan being discussed by all sides. Now you can know this, that in my book, I just being released here in a few days, Jerusalem Jihad. What's amazing to me about this story is when I wrote the book, it included the Vatican's part that it would play in the peace process is in the book. A whole lot of stuff is. But the Vatican's part in the book of the peace process was to manage the holy sites in Jerusalem. I wrote that in the book. And before the book can get off the press, that part of the book has already been discussed, that it could potentially come to pass. And that's quite amazing to me as the author of this book, Jerusalem Jihad. Now, Jerusalem Jihad, of course, is a sequel to the book I wrote called Mark of the Beast, RFID. It is the sequel. Now, the book is written with the same type of format, that is, taking current world events and Bible prophecy and writing an end-time apocalyptic scenario. The difference is the Mark of the Beast book I wrote was written from the perspective of the streets of America. This one, Jerusalem Jihad, is written from the perspective from the streets of Jerusalem. And all of the current world events tied in. And the Bible prophecies scattered throughout the book that helps you understand these events that are happening right now and potentially the things that will happen in the very near future. So you don't want to, It will help you. It breaks it down. It simplifies. It's an easy read, and it's apocalyptic, but it is again, it's a scenario, a possibility based on current world events. A lot of them are in there, and historical events of Israel in this book, and biblical prophecy, and an end time apocalyptic scenario. So I wanted to share this with you, that there are things. This peace agreement process is moving rapidly, moving very rapidly in the Middle East. And it is Bible prophecy. Something biblical is going on with the signs of the second coming of Christ. How does my dog just fall asleep and snore in the middle of one of the biggest events going on in the biblical prophecy and history of the world? Are you serious? Give your life to Jesus Christ.